I originally was not going to record this as a video. I'd just taken some photographs for the customer. But it's quite an interesting repair, so I eventually decided to record it. So I'm just going to show these pictures here of this vintage Amiga with a 30 T2 movement in it. Originally it came in for a service and a new balance staff. As you can see, the pivot is broken here, and I found the impulse pin to be broken as well. And so both pivots were actually broken, at the top and the bottom pivot on the balance staff. And so here's the hairspring removed from the balance wheel. And here's another shot of the roller. You see the impulse pin missing. And so I've taken the roller off the balance as well. And I've mounted the balance in my tool here to remove the balance staff. This is called a Jacot tool. So now I've removed the balance staff, and let's compare it to the new one. And you can see there's the two pivots are missing. And I've put the balance staff and riveted it onto the balance wheel. And I've found a new impulse pin. And so now the first part of this video will be showing how I secure the impulse pin to the roller. And for that I need a brass plate. And the impulse pin is loose in the hole. And I'm going to secure that with something called shellac. So I need to heat my brass plate, and for that I'm using a spirit lamp. Now it's not advisable to heat the item directly because it will get burnt, and so what we do is we heat up the brass plate so that we can transfer that heat to the item, in this case a roller. And here's the shellac, and what I'm doing here is I'm melting a little shellac, and as I pull it away I'm creating a string. You need to pull it away slowly, but that will form a string, and it will pretty much dry instantly, or set instantly, and become quite brittle. So we need to keep heating up this plate because it has to stay quite hot. And I've placed the roller on the plate, and the heat is transferring to the roller. And because I've made that little string, it's easy to just apply the shellac to where I want it to go. And eventually the shellac will melt down into the hole. Now I might have to reheat the plate several times because it does cool down fairly quickly. Now the impulse pin that I have is slightly too long. As you can see, it's pointing out through the bottom here. And so I'm going to use a diamond file to effectively cut that down to the correct size. And carefully just gliding the diamond file over the bottom of the impulse jewel, and that will just shave it down. And now that's done, I've remounted the roller back onto the balance wheel, or onto the balance staff. And I need to check to make sure that the height of the impulse pin is correct, or the depth that it's set is correct, so that it doesn't foul the pallet forks. And I've remounted the balance spring, and I'm just checking it. And it all looks good, so I'm going to strip this watch down and give it a good clean. As always, before stripping the watch down, you need to remove any power from the mainspring. And I'll start by removing the pallets. Now the train is not spinning very freely, and I think I can see the reason why. If you can notice that the centre pivot on the centre wheel is actually moving around. Excess play, or we call it side shake. So I'll be investigating that. But first I'm going to remove the ratchet wheel and the crown wheel and the barrel bridge. And of course the click and the click spring. And now I can remove the train wheel bridge. So remove the centre wheel, the third wheel, the fourth wheel. The fourth wheel has an extended pivot, and that's for an off-centre second hand. Easily broken, so be careful if you see this. And the escape wheel and the barrel. I'll continue now and remove the keyless work. Now I've slightly loosened the screw and remove tension from the spring, and now I can remove the screw completely. That will reduce any risk of damage. As you can see, a lot of oil here. It's spread around over the years. And off with the minute wheel. And we've got the return bar spring, or the yoke spring. And we'll remove the return bar or yoke. I can just undo the setting lever screw. And the setting lever fell down to the bench. Out with the stem, which releases the winding pinion and the sliding pinion. And now let's have a look at the center wheel. And I don't know if you can notice, but if you look at the pivot at the bottom part there, it's actually got a groove that's worn into it. And as you can see, there's a lot of side shakes. So I mounted it on my lathe, and I've just cut it down to be to have parallel edges. And I'm going to replace that dual, the center bearing, which is like a bush, with a jewel, which will reduce friction and allow the watch to perform better. So I'm just reaming out the center hole here to be the correct diameter for the jewel hole to fit in. And I'm using a jeweling tool here. This is a favorite jeweling tool. It could equally as easily be done with a sights jeweling tool. And once I've reamed that out to be the correct diameter for the jewel hole, I can now press fit the jewel into place. And now that's looking good. So now the watch is cleaned, I'm just going to lubricate this and put it back together. So I'm lubricating the barrel arbor here with D5. On with the escape wheel, the fourth wheel, and remember that fourth wheel pivot, extended pivot with the off-center seconds. On with the third wheel and our center wheel. Now I can install the train wheel bridge. And you'll notice that whilst I'm seating the wheels into place, I'm actually using my brass tweezers to apply a minimal amount of pressure, downwards pressure on the plate. As extreme care has to be taken here because obviously the pivots can break quite easily on the wheel pivots can break quite easily. But once that's done, I'm tacking it down with these screws and on with the barrel bridge. As you can see, it's a much smoother train now. So I'm using Mobius 9104 for the barrel arbor and the center wheel pivots, and 9101 for the train wheel pivots at the third wheel, at the fourth wheel and the escape wheel. And back on with the click spring and the click. And back on with the ratchet wheel. Now to lubricate the dial side. So now I'm reassembling the keyless mechanism. And now I can reassemble the escapement. I'll start here with the pallet forks. So let's give it a little wind and install the balance. And it's a joy to see it spring back into action. So I'm back on with the hour wheel and the dial and the hands. And I'll be doing a bit of timing and regulating, but other than that, I can call this watch completed. So we brought another vintage watch back to life. That's what makes this job so enjoyable. So as always, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed that, and I hope you find it useful.